My name is Margaret Harris. I'm 74 years old. And this is the story of how I learned that sometimes your own blood can turn strangers. And a stranger can turn out to be your only family. I live in Ohio, in an old 2-story house my late husband, George, built with his own hands 40 years ago. Every brick of this house has a memory. The laughter of my children, the smell of apple pie in autumn, and the tears I hid when George passed away. After he was gone, all I had left were my 3 sons, Michael, Robert, and James, and my daughter, Linda. They were my pride, my reason to live. But as the years went on, I realized something bitter. Love stays pure only until money walks into the room. When George's pension and the farmland we owned began to gain value, suddenly, my phone started ringing a lot more often. Not for "Hi Mom, how are you?" but for "Hey Mom, did you ever think about selling that land? Mom, you should move closer to us." You know, after the will stuff is sorted. I laughed it off at first. I told myself they were just being practical. But deep down, a small voice whispered, "Margaret, they're counting what's yours before you're even gone." Then, a few months ago, I got sick. Nothing serious at first, just the flu, or so I thought. But the doctor found a heart condition, and suddenly everyone was very concerned. Michael flew down for a weekend. Robert called twice in a week, which was a miracle, and Linda sent a fancy bouquet with a "get well soon" card that looked more expensive than heartfelt. But the one who really showed up was my grandson, Ethan, James's boy, 20 years old, studying at a community college nearby. He came every day after class, brought me soup, cleaned the porch, read to me in the evenings. Not because anyone asked him to, but because he wanted to. And when I'd tell him he didn't need to come so often, he'd smile and say, "Grandma, you've already done enough for everyone. Let me return the favor." One night, as I watched him wash the dishes while humming softly, something inside me broke and healed at the same time. I realized, out of all my family, only this boy had my husband's heart. A week later, I mentioned to Michael on the phone that I was updating my will. He went silent for a moment, and then said quickly, "Well, Mom, you know it's only fair that the estate gets divided evenly." Robert texted me the next day, asking if I'd considered a financial advisor, and Linda, sweet Linda, actually drove down. But instead of asking about my health, she spent the whole visit asking questions like, "So, who's getting the farmhouse? Have you thought about that yet?" That night, I sat on my bed, the rain tapping on the window, and I prayed, "God, show me who deserves what I've built my whole life for." The next morning, my answer walked into my room with a cup of tea and a smile, "Ethan." So, I made my decision. I called my lawyer, Mr. Jenkins, and rewrote my will. I left the farmhouse, the savings, everything to Ethan. Not because he asked for it, but because he earned it with kindness, patience, and love. I didn't tell anyone at first. But secrets have a way of finding ears that shouldn't hear them. When Michael and Robert found out, all hell broke loose. Michael came storming into my house 2 days later, shouting, "Mom, are you out of your mind? You're giving everything to a kid." Robert added, "You know he's manipulating you, right? He's just after your money." Linda cried, calling me unfair and biased. They all stood in my living room, arguing, accusing, as if I wasn't even there. I looked at each of them and said quietly, "When your father died, I thought I'd lost the person who loved me most. But I was wrong, because Ethan showed me love still exists in this house." Michael's face went red. He slammed the door and walked out. Robert muttered something under his breath. Linda just stood there, tears rolling down her cheeks, maybe from guilt, maybe from anger. And Ethan, that boy, just stood behind me, his hand on my shoulder, saying nothing, because he didn't need to. After they left, I felt peace for the first time in years. I finally understood something George used to say. Money shows you who people really are, but love, Love shows you who they could have been. A few months later, my health got worse. I moved into a small nursing home, quiet, clean, and peaceful. Ethan visits me every weekend, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with nothing but stories about his life. He says he's saving up to renovate the old farmhouse. He wants to plant apple trees again, just like his grandpa did. I tell him, "You don't owe me anything, Ethan." And he says, "I know, Grandma. That's why I want to do it." Maybe one day, when I'm gone, my other kids will realize that inheritance isn't about money. It's about memory. And maybe, when they pass by that farmhouse and see Ethan's children playing in the yard, they'll finally understand why I chose him. Because the truth is, I didn't give him my property. I gave him my trust, and that's something no lawyer can write down on paper.